It's time for Free Speech Fridays, brought to you in association with the Free Speech Union. You can find them at fsu.nz, and the Free Speech Union are the champions, the promoters and the protectors of free speech in this country, an organisation solely dedicated to the pursuit of and the preservation of free speech across all sectors of New Zealand society. They do fantastic work. We talked to them earlier this week about rules that Auckland University staff rejected that would have severely limited free speech. And they continue to do great work, including, of course, funding this section of our show, which is about getting people not afraid to speak their minds in at the end of a week to discuss what has gone on. Joining us this week, he's on recess, so he's taken time out from the holidays. Simon Court, MP from the ACT Party. Simon, lovely to have you with us.
Good morning, Sean. And recess ain't holidays for ACT MPs.
Oh,
just want to let the listeners know.
Life's so hard. And also with us returning after, a wee interregnum, a regular contributor to the program and commentator, particularly on things involving the Jewish community in New Zealand, is Juliet Moses. Juliet, lovely to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm never on holiday either.
Yeah, not at all.
No.
Look, I want to start just quickly, and it wasn't down on the list, but we've just come off talking about it. I read in the papers, look, RNZ and 3 News or Warner Brothers Discovery are going to make a documentary about the Polkinghorne trial. A documentary journalism, not so bad. But then we see South Pacific Pictures are working title, The Mysterious Death of Pauline Hanna, on a TV bloody mini-series. My audience, because I just floated this now, they are saying too soon and bad bloody taste. Juliet, what do you think?
I didn't know anything about that until you mentioned it, but that was my gut reaction, too soon as well, as soon as you said it. I can understand that, there is great fascination with true crime these days. True crime podcasts are extremely popular, that kind of thing. But it feels too soon, absolutely.
So how long is long enough then, Simon?
Sorry.
And Simon, do you feel like Juliet and I, that your initial reaction is that's too soon, that's bad taste?
I think so. I've seen some interviews with the sister of Polkinghorne's wife, and that family is still living with distress and trauma. I think it would be very unfair to start raking over the coals at this early stage. But, people are fascinated by true crime stories. They are a hit. And journalism, television broadcasting, the media in New Zealand are struggling to find things that people want to watch.
Well, I don't know. A number of people have suggested it might be good a year plus on to do a mini-series about the death of baby Ruthless Empire.
Well, that is the kind of story that needs to be told. But I'm not sure that New Zealanders in the main are up for listening and watching that kind of content because it's just too uncomfortable and it reveals home truths about which we have very few solutions to.
Yeah. Guys, let's leap into, I think, the topic of the week, though many might try and see it in a different way. And a story this morning actually out of Laos, some comments from Chris Luxon, our Prime Minister. It has been the year anniversary of the October 7th attacks on Israel by Hamas and other groups and backed by other countries and other groups. And it has been quite a year, and Juliet, I'll go to you first. It has been quite a year for Jewish communities and people of Jewish faith all around the world, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a terrible year. I would imagine for most Jewish people there has not been a worse year in their lifetimes in terms of the explosion of anti-Semitism and the misinformation and the demonisation of Jewish people.
And of Israel as a state, Juliet.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, it goes without saying. Terrible.
Simon,
Israel is fighting for its survival. And I know that makes a lot of people happy because they don't think it should survive as a state. The one Jewish state in the world is the one that, coincidentally, they don't want to see exist. But it is fighting for its survival. And for most Jewish people, Israel is central to their identity.
Okay, Simon, this morning the Prime Minister was basically criticising Benjamin Netanyahu for not listening hard enough to the international community and their outrage about Israel's response to the unprovoked attacks upon them. I made the observation that maybe Netanyahu is listening to his citizens who are being attacked from outside his country, and that they're the people he should listen to in a democracy.
Well, indeed. A nation's government's first responsibility is to protect its own people, to defend its territorial borders, and only then to consider the needs of others. I think the Prime Minister was making a good point, though, that in the pursuit of the goals that Israel has, which is to defend its borders, to recover the hostages, there are trade-offs. There are really important considerations around what is the impact going to be on people who are in the way. I've seen Israel take a whole lot of measures to try to mitigate those risks against civilians. They drop knock bombs on the roof of buildings to give people warning to leave. They've sent thousands of text messages to people in Lebanon recently saying, get out of these buildings. There are Hezbollah operatives hiding or operating in these buildings. You need to get out now. It's very difficult to think of any other conflict where one of the parties has made that much of an effort to warn civilians to get out of harm's way. But it doesn't change the fact that you've got terrorist organisations.
So why don't we say, why doesn't our Prime Minister, maybe because he wants to sell some sheeps to the Arabs, why doesn't he go to Laos and say, we commend the IDF for having a civilian to combatant kill ratio of 2-1, where in the Iraqi conflict it was 9-1?
Well, I think Prime Minister Luxon is being guided by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and in environments like that, it's probably best to focus on the opportunities there rather than inflame the situation. And in all honesty,
Juliet, I wonder if you agree with that it's better to concentrate on the trade and the upsides rather than stand on your principles.
There's a couple of things here. Firstly, I do note that it's partly the line of questioning that the media gives him. So, they agree, they clearly want a particular answer from him. It doesn't mean he has to give it. But, they never say, for example, why, have you got anything to say about Iran escalating matters, the 200 ballistic missiles that just sent over into Israel? It's always Israel that's doing the escalating. It's never Iran and its proxies. There was never a question about why did you say nothing over the last year about the 8,000 missiles that Hezbollah started sending over on October the 8th. While Israel was still fighting Hamas down south, Hezbollah started rocketing it from the north. Never any question like that. So I do think it's partly the media, but I do think as well that the government, and this excludes you, Simon, and your party, because you have been very principled and had great moral clarity on this, but the two other parties in particular, they've been, the best I could say is extremely muddled.
New Zealand First and nationally you're talking about, Juliet? Yes,
I am. And the fact that, in particular, the recent vote that New Zealand cast at the UN General Assembly on that resolution, where all the other Five Eyes allies either abstained or voted against it, is an absolute disgrace. So Winston Peters justified voting for the resolution, which would require all Jews to be ethnically cleansed.